I think a new team has arrived in the AFC West, and their name is the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah.
Herbert stops, launches deep. Jalen Guyton, he's got it!
Herbert fires open, making the grab. Mike Williams down the sideline. 17-yard line, look out again. Carr, intercepted.
What do you think, man?
I can get on board with that. Play it again. Play it again.
It again. I'll play it again at the end of the podcast. That was fun, man. I don't know how I created that, but hey, for you listeners who just listen on the podcast, we're on YouTube now. And if you're just listening through Spotify or Apple Pods or wherever you get your podcast from, you probably didn't see that. So you have to go into our YouTube channel. I think it's at LAC Shock Therapy, and you'll get a chance to take a look at that. But I created our own little intro, something that's not copyrighted because we got flagged immediately by YouTube for Thunderstruck. So a little bit different, a little bit of fun. When you get a chance, come subscribe and take a look at the video. But it gave me goosebumps, man. I was all excited about it.
I'm ready to go. Reliving some good memories there in the highlight clip, and then I love the Stephen A. kind of intro. It sets the whole tone. Like, oh yeah, this is this is about to be intense. It's a great little intro. I liked it. I have my screen split up, so like half is our video, and then the other half is notes that I have. But for that, I had to blow up the full screen and get that on my full screen layout to see what was going on. That was awesome.
Well, I don't think anything there is copyright other than maybe Stephen A. Smith, but other than that, it should all be good to go. So new intro so that we're no longer being flagged for copyright issues. Really dead time in Chargers football right now, which is killing me. Yeah. There's not a whole lot going on. So we will be breaking down our AFC West opponents this week is the Kansas City Chiefs. I have notes here to pull up the depth chart. I'll do that on the side. But in terms of free agent additions, they did sign wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster, safety Justin Reed from Houston, wide receiver Marquez Valdez-Scantling from Green Bay, running back Ronald Jones from the Buccaneers, Deion Bush, who hasn't been relevant since he was drafted, Jermaine Carter, another backup to Willie Gay, Nick Bolton, just kind of a depth piece. They also re-signed Orlando Brown, franchise tagged him anyways. They're working on a long-term contract. It looks like Andrew Wiley re-signed, is presumed to be their starter at right tackle. They re-signed Michael Burton and Blake Bell and Derek Nottie. They also had a couple draft picks. Why don't you talk about the draft picks a little bit?
Yeah, the Chiefs always have one of the most frustrating drafts because they always get great players to slide to them, and then it's a very class organization. They don't miss very often, and watching them draft this year was the same that I've seen for the last 10 years. Just a very, very efficient draft with some really good players that I wanted to be wearing the Chargers jerseys this year. But first pick. Their first. Sorry, they had 2 first-round picks. The first of them, 21 overall, cornerback Trent McDuffie out of Washington, absolute stud, a dog. Played for the Dogs, is a dog, a little undersized, but he's going to make up for it because he's an absolute gamer. At the 30th overall pick, and still in the first round, DN George Karlaftis, Purdue, one of those steals that I was talking about. It seems every year they got a guy who shouldn't be there, is on the board when they pick. That's 2 outstanding picks for them at the top of their draft. And then get a double dip in the second round, 54th pick overall, wide receiver Sky Moore, Western Michigan, a guy who can do a lot of things with the ball in his hand, a weapon that I was excited to get in, paired up with Justin Herbert. Didn't happen. Now he's a division rival. That's not great. Also, another second-round pick, 62 overall. Got a safety, Brian Cook out of Cincinnati. That pick I'm just okay about. But then third round, linebacker Leo Chanel out of Wisconsin. That was a guy I was really liking. I thought he could be, add some juice to our linebacker room after losing Kaiser White again over there in Kansas City. Going to see him twice a year. Fourth round, they swooped up cornerback Joshua Williams out of Fayette State. Fifth round, again, doesn't make any sense how this guy's still on the board. O-tackle Darian Nard out of Kentucky. And then they get Justin Ross, who slipped through the cracks. No one wanted to take a chance on the receiver out of Clemson. He winds up in Kansas City. So just a top to bottom, really good draft. Just let players fall to them that filled a need and got themselves some really, really good rookies coming in.
Their linebacking room is stacked. Leo Chanel fits them so well just because of they like to use their linebackers and blitz them. And he was probably one of the best guys at getting out of the quarterback from that middle linebacker position. I don't really know much about Joshua Williams. You know how high I was on Darian Kennard. And then Justin Ross has been making plays, headlines over there in Kansas City as an undrafted rookie. Somebody a lot of people thought was going to be drafted in the first round before his injury. So he's a really, really good player, and there's no way he doesn't crack the starting lineup, even with their receiving core. In terms of losses, their biggest loss is going to be Tyreek Hill. They traded Tyreek Hill to Miami, which is where they got a lot of those picks to draft a lot of those players. They lost the Honey Badger. He's going to be in New Orleans. That's a huge loss for them as well. Kind of their Derwin James of their defense, their leader. That's a huge hit just from that leadership position. They lost cornerback Travaris Ward. I also think this is a major loss for them as well. They did sign some players. They have some players there that can kind of fill that void, though. They lost Melvin Ingram to Miami, Jerron Reed to Green Bay, to Marcus Robinson to Las Vegas, Byron Pringle to Chicago, Mike Hughes to Detroit. And then the last and probably least important, they probably couldn't wait to get rid of him, but Daniel Sorensen is also gone. Just taking a look over their depth chart, I mean, it really starts at Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is the best player in football, makes them competitive every single year, one of the richest men in the NFL, signing a $500 million contract. I think that this offense and this whole team really starts with Patrick Mahomes, and then everything else matters, but not to that extent, because he's going to be able to cover up a lot of issues for them. I'll let you go ahead and talk about their running back room, Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Ronald Jones.
Yeah, well, first I just want to kind of say, just to backtrack to the losses. I think it's so frustrating year in and year out. The Kansas City just dominates the AFC West and then goes and competes, goes on a Super Bowl run, and then re-signs everybody. This is the biggest rollover of talent I've seen in Kansas City since Patrick Mahomes has taken over. It hasn't been like that with him at the helm of this team. So it'll be interesting with all these new faces, of those guys that you mentioned that are no longer in the organization. Are they still the same dominant AFC West powerhouse that we've grown to know? It'll be interesting to see. This is like the first year in a long time I feel like this division and this conference is wide open. But moving to the running back room, Clyde Edwards-Helaire still entering his third season, very young back, likely the starter there. But he's going to be splitting time with Ronald Jones, who in 2020 was starting over Leonard Fournette over there in Tampa Bay. They switched back roles this past season, but he's a really good young running back as well. I think he is probably more fit for a backup role, but both of those guys are capable of impacting both the running game and the passing game. And with Tyreek Hill in house, Andy Reid and the Chiefs are going to have to find some creative ways to get their running backs involved in this offense. Behind them, they have Jared McKinnon, who's been the third string running back in Kansas City forever. I don't really put much, stock into his name because I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Ronald Jones, those are two really, really good backs at the top of the depth chart, and they're going to be getting a lot of touches between the two of them.
Ronald Jones averaged 5.1 yards per carry in 2020. That is an insane statistic. Even with that, he still lost his starting position to Leonard Fournette, which is probably why he wanted to go someplace where he could potentially take on a lead back role. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire has not played up to the potential that made him the 32nd pick just a few seasons ago. I think he's going to be able to carve out a pretty strong role for them, and I think he has lead back potential. Leonard Fournette's just kind of a different animal ever since he came out of LSU. But I still think Ronald Jones, he was a USC cat, right? I believe.
Let's see here. Ronald Jones out of USC.
Yeah. So does he come in and take that lead back role, do you think?
I don't think I think, can he compete for it? Definitely. I think that's why they brought him in. But to me, he's just a really, really good running back too. He could start for you if your starter goes down, but I like to be able to split carries between them, be able to play the hot hand, because running back is such a rhythm position. And when you look at both of these guys' careers, they have just no type of consistency. Like looking at Ronald Jones, 4 years in the league, didn't really play a whole lot, and as a rookie, only appeared in 9 games, didn't have any starts. Then 2019, he really took off, finished with, was it 1,000? His first 1,000 scrimmage yard season. That got him starting minutes in 2020. He started 13 games over Leonard Fournette, had that really good year, 5.1 yards per carry on the ground. Had a career high 1,100 yards, and then last year they delegated him to a backup role. His confidence, his production plummeted, and then he couldn't really find his rhythm. Now you look at Clyde Edwards-Helaire; he had a phenomenal rookie season in 2020. I'd
say it was a hot start. Yeah, it was definitely a hot start for him, but I think that the consistency wasn't there. Is ultimately what it comes down to me. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be more regulated to a third down back, catching passes out of the backfield, while Ronald Jones is going to be your between the tackles runner. They have that ability to kind of handle those different kinds of roles for them.
That's fair. No, and I think it's good for both of them because they complement each other very well. I think Ronald Jones, I think, is a much powerful runner, and I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a better finesse player. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire has gotten much better just catching the football at the pro level. His rookie season caught 36 of his 54 targets, just 66% catch percentage. And then last season, he got a lot less targets, 23 targets, but he caught 19 of them, so almost 83%. So he's getting better. I just think he needs some rhythm. Like he went from LSU getting about 20 touches a game, the centerpiece of that LSU offense when he was there. Well, much more.
No, that was Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and Joe Burrow. But he was really, really good in his role because teams couldn't stack the box against him. And LSU had a super team that season, from the offensive line to the quarterback to the wide receivers. He didn't have to do a whole lot to be great because he wasn't the focus. Jamar Chase was the focus, and Joe Burrow was the focus.
Yeah. Well, I guess the point I'm trying to make with Clyde Edwards-Helaire is that he went from LSU, where he was getting about 20 touches a game, to his rookie season where he was productive, especially at the beginning of the year, but was getting about 16 touches a game. Now, last season, he was getting about 13 touches a game. That's a lot. That's really hard as you're adjusting to the speed of the NFL, but then your carries in a position that is so dependent on rhythm and finding your groove. He just has had no they just need to figure out a way to use this guy because he's a player. They're just not using him the right way. I think Ronald Jones gives them a chance to only use Clyde Edwards-Helaire in situations that he's going to thrive in. So it'll be. I wouldn't say excited, but very
I'm
interested
excited
to
to
see.
see him play. I'm not excited to play against him, right? But like
I guess that's
in terms of the
where I'm
player,
at.
like he's a fun player to watch. He was at least in college. There was a reason he was drafted in the
Yeah.
first round. Kind of a small scat back, right? That's kind of his role. Moving over to wide receivers, their starting wide receivers right now is Juju Smith-Schuster, Mecole Hardman, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. They did draft Sky Moore. They still have Josh Gordon. They have Justin Ross. Josh Gordon may not even make this team. I think it's going to be highly unlikely that he comes in and really takes that role. He's just way past his prime. Too much with the off-field incidences ended up really limiting his development because he was a hot player when he started his career. But I want to know, out of that group, let's assume that it is Juju, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Mecole Hardman, Sky Moore, and Justin Ross as their top five. How does that compare to Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman, Byron Pringle, and DeMarcus Robinson from last season? Is this a better, deeper wide receiver group, or does Tyreek Hill kind of mask a lot of what they lost?
Yeah.
Or no longer gained?
I hear. Yeah. I think overall impact on how 2021's receiving core could put stress on a defense and impact a football game. I think this 2022 class or 2022 core is a step down in that regard because of Tyreek Hill. But now when you look at 2 through 5, I think they're significantly better. They've upgraded from every position on the bottom half of the depth chart. And so I think they're a much deeper room. I think they're a much more, from receiver to receiver, a more versatile room. But when you just look at the head of those receiver core, Juju compared to Tyreek Hill, I think there's a massive drop off in talent there. No disrespect to Juju. It's just Tyreek Hill is a different animal. What the pressure that he puts on defenses, and him, to me, he's like a Steph Curry type of talent to where he doesn't even need to have the ball in his hand all the time to garner attention, to draw away attention from other people. It makes other people around them better. And so I think from 2 to 5, I think 2022 is much deeper class, but an overall way to, overall talent wise, I think 2021 is better, just because of that superstar talent on the top of the depth chart in Tyreek Hill.
I think that they were looking at their depth chart and they're looking at Mecole Hardman, and they think that he's going to be able to replicate some of that speed, maybe not to the same production, right? But it's weird because you got Juju Smith-Schuster, Mecole Hardman, and Sky Moore, who all excel in the slot. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, he's fast. Don't get me wrong. He's tall. Don't get me wrong. But playing with the best quarterback, in my opinion, Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the NFL, even above today, even above Patrick Mahomes. He was not super productive playing with that level of quarterback, knowing that teams are going to be drawn to Devontae Adams, and he still wasn't able to get it done in the same fashion. And then Justin Ross, I think, is going to play a much, much bigger role in this team. Even though he went undrafted, I feel like he's going to come in. He's going to earn starting reps. I think he's going to earn them over Marquez Valdez-Scantling because I think he's just able to do more talented, better at catching the ball, better at tracking. Justin Ross is a beast. He's an animal. And the fact that he went undrafted, nobody even took a 7th-round flyer on him, is insane to me.
Depth-wise, the receiver room in Kansas City is deep because they also have Darius Fountain and Cornell Powell, who were...
I didn't even think about Cornell Powell, right?
They're training camp darlings from last season, so there's a lot of receivers over there in Kansas City, vying to catch balls from Patrick Mahomes this season. So there's a lot of bodies. I don't see any way how Josh Gordon finds a way onto this roster, because there are, 7 legit receivers right now, not including Gordon.
So I do agree with you. I think it is a deeper room this year. I think they're lacking that top end talent. But, Juju Smith-Schuster has a 1,400-yard season under his belt. So he's able to do it. He hasn't been healthy the last 2 years. And granted, I know a lot of people talk about the dancing, pre-snap and his TikToks and all of that, whatever his platform is, right? But like in the grand scheme of things, I think Juju is a ball player. He's a red zone threat. He's a legit route runner. And he's set for like a breakout year after the last 2 seasons being kind of down. Playing with Ben Roethlisberger the last couple seasons has not helped his production at all.
No, he's a good player. And I'm interested to see if he an actual legit wide receiver 1 in this league, or is he just a really good, one of the best wide receiver 2s? And now he's going to be able to prove it. Now he has a great quarterback throwing in the ball. He has he's in a system that caters to their best players and getting them the ball in situations that, complement their skill set. So he has no excuse if he just lays a dud this season. He has a good receiver core around him, great tight end to help take some pressure off, some talented running backs, and a great quarterback. So,
and he's going to be challenged. He's going to be playing J.C. Jackson twice a year, Patrick Surtain twice a year. He should feast against the Raiders, but we'll get into that next week. Travis Kelce is the best tight end in football. Even at 32 years old, I don't think we really have to talk about what Travis Kelce brings to this football team. He is their wide receiver 1. He is their top threat on the offensive side of the ball. He just does so much so well, whether it's in the passing game, whether it's blocking, the leadership aspect of it. Travis Kelce's a ball player.
Absolutely.
They also have Blake Bell and Noah Gray to provide some sort of depth there. There's a lot of strength on this offensive line, though. They're bringing back some continuity. All 5 starters are back. Orlando Brown's working on a contract extension. Joe Thuney is the highest paid guard in the NFL right now. Creed Humphrey had a fantastic rookie season. I think he was just outside of making an all-pro team, but he did make the Pro Bowl. Trey Smith was another fantastic draft pick for them. They ended up grabbing him in like the 5th or 6th round. And then they'll bring back Andrew Wiley. They also have some depth there. Darian Kennard, everybody knows how high I was on Darian Kennard. Getting him in like the 5th round. Lucas Niang was a 3rd round draft pick just a couple seasons ago. Austin Reeder was a starter at center for in the NFL prior to Humphrey coming in. So they have some depth there. It's a very, very strong offensive line. Kind of where do you rank them among the best offensive lines in football?
I mean, they're right up there, right? I think we're talking about the best offensive line. I think it's over there in Philadelphia, with the tackle pairing of Mailata and Lane Johnson. I think they're the best 2 tackles.
Or Jason Kelce too, right?
You got Jason Kelce, Landon Dickerson they just drafted, who's became a beast, and then Isaac Suamalo, their right guard. He was out with injury last year, but they have Jack Driscoll, who's also a really good replacement. So I think that 6 to me is the premier line in football right now. Behind them, if Tampa Bay didn't have so much rollover, losing Ali Marpet and losing boy Alex Kappa, I think they would be a shoo-in for number 2.
They got Shaq Mason.
They signed Shaq Mason, but just looking at the Tristan Wirfs, great, best right tackle in the game right now. Ryan Jensen, great center. Donovan Smith, I think, is just okay. Aaron Stinney's just solid. Okay. They're solid, but not the. They just don't have the 1 through 5 that just like makes me do one of the tilt my head back. They just don't have the depth really that I see with Kansas City and Philadelphia. So I have Philadelphia 1, Kansas City right there at 2, Tampa Bay a really close 3, and then I think all 3 of those teams are much better than the next 3 teams I have on my list, which would be no particular order. I got the Colts, Browns, Cowboys, and the Patriots. Even with the Shaq Mason leaving, I think those are the cream of the crop for offensive lines. But I think Tampa Bay, Kansas City, Philadelphia, those are my medalists.
You remember, like, just a season ago, we were looking at the Chiefs having like a bad offensive line because they were starting 2 rookies, and we're sitting there thinking, man, that's not going to work out for them. And it ended up working out great. They literally have a top 5 offensive line. It's insane. After that Super Bowl, they went hard at the offensive line, and it's a really, really good group. It's a really young group overall. I don't think that they have a single starter over the age of like 26, 27. So they're all on long-term contracts. So they're going to be sitting with Patrick Mahomes for a while. We're going to get real comfortable facing them twice a year with that offensive line.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. I mean, it's hard to be this good in this league for this long. And it's because they have great roster construction. Every single year, as soon as you think they have fell off in any one position group, they're just laughing at you because they know what they have in-house, and they are really confident in their ability to draft players, get players signed, but then also develop them in-house. They make some people, they make people look good over there. So
on the defensive side of the ball, start at the edges. They drafted George Karlaftis. They have Frank Clark. They don't really have any depth. I thought this was an issue for them last season before they signed Melvin Ingram. But George Karlaftis, kind of what are your expectations for him in his rookie season? Because he's slated to be a starter. He's going to play a lot. I feel like they are weak at edge, so they're looking for a lot from him. And I don't think Chris Jones is going to be playing off the edge this season. I think he's moving back full-time to the interior. I think Frank Clark's a shell of himself. How big of an impact does this rookie have to this defense?
Oh, well, he's going to be extremely important. I mean, he's going to be the motor that makes this defense work, because I think you still have to respect Chris Jones on the interior. He's probably going to be the most game planned, the most schemed up defender on this Kansas City defense for opposing offensive coordinators. But beyond that, I'm spending a lot of time on game planning and trying to find a way to get George Karlaftis off his game, because I'm really not scared. You got their linebackers to worry about, but you got to take care of the first line of defense first. And so I think teams are going to spend a lot of attention on the rookie George Karlaftis. But he needs a double-digit sack season for this team to be where it wants to be. Defense has not really been as important for the Patrick Mahomes years, because Patrick Mahomes can just score 50 points a game. I don't think he's going to have that luxury this season with no Tyreek Hill and a lot of new offensive pieces trying to get familiar with them. So I don't think they're going to be able to rely on these offensive shootouts that they had in the past. They're going to need their defense to play better than it has the last 5, 6, 7 seasons. And George Karlaftis is going to be very, very important because they have no type of pass rush. Like you said, Frank Clark, not the player he was. They have some really good linebackers that we were talking about. Nick Bolton, Jermaine Carter Jr., Willie Gay. They're all capable of getting after the passer. But if you have no type of pressure or no type of if you're not getting pressure up front, it's not. There's only so much those second level players are able to do.
Chris Jones is going to be able to apply interior pressure. He's just excellent at doing that. And then you look at George Karlaftis, Frank Clark. I think of them as better run defenders than they are pass rushers.
Yeah.
George Karlaftis is an animal. Don't get me wrong, but I don't see him having this 10-sack outstanding season. I think that he's going to need help from around him. He's going to have to be schemed. And I think that a lot of teams are going to scheme toward his side over Frank Clark, because I'm not afraid of Frank Clark. Frank Clark hasn't been dominant since he was in San Francisco, in my opinion. I also think that the depth of this defensive line is very, very weak. Mike Dana, Joshua King-Doe, Taylor Stallworth. I mean, I don't even know who those guys are. They still have Kalen Saunders there. They have Cortez Broughton, and those guys are third and fourth round depth pieces for them. So I think that they're just an injury or two away from really, really struggling on the defensive line. Linebackers, you talked about them a little bit. Nick Bolton, Willie Gay are really, really, really good linebackers. Leo Chanel, I think, is going to push to be that third linebacker when they are in base sets. But Willie Gay and Nick Bolton is kind of that duo that you're looking at being on the field quite a bit for them.
Yeah.
So I kind of almost feel like linebacker is the strength of this team overall. Now, moving into their secondary, Trent McDuffie, excellent pick. Somebody we wanted to potentially grab 17th overall. He ended up going 21st. They also have L'Jarius Sneed, who's played very well, kind of an upward trajectory for him. Juan Thornhill, and they replaced Honey Badger with Justin Reed. Just going about that loss of the Honey Badger, like how big is it them losing essentially the heart of their defense, and what are going to be the rippling effects of losing a player of his caliber in that leadership?
That's huge. I mean, you're really sucking the soul out of that side of the ball. Honey Badger did so many things for them. Obviously, we could, casual fans, you see the production he had on the field, breaking up passes, intercepting passes, being the stout tackler he was, but the impact he had on the guys around him, his ability to lead, his ability to, let guys be confident in their roles and not having to overcompensate, that is invaluable. And they're going to have to learn to lean on each other in a different way that they didn't really, that they didn't have to worry about when you had Honey Badger back there, because he's an all-pro. He's going to take care of his business. Let me just focus on myself. I think you're going to see a lot, especially in the secondary, overcompensating, guys trying to do too much, kind of fill in for other people where they see, somebody else slipping up. It's going to take a while for them to build up that, trust in one another. And I think that leadership and that faith with Honey Badger back there is going to take some time for them to find themselves.
It's a really, really young secondary. Trent McDuffie, L'Jarius Sneed, DeAndre Baker, Brian Cook, Rashad Fenton, Justin Reed, they're all under 25 years old. Juan Thornhill is the oldest player still in a rookie contract. He's 26. They're losing a veteran presence, a guy that kind of helped get everybody in position, hyped everybody up. And they don't have that leader unless you're looking at Justin Reed, who is a really good player. But Justin Reed is probably the veteran in that secondary. And I mean, how great has Houston been over the last couple years? It's not been good for them, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I think that the biggest thing that they're missing is just the veteran presence. The playmaking ability, obviously. I mean, Honey Badger, he made a lot of plays for them. But in the grand scheme of things, losing a player of that caliber, I mean, I feel like teams are going to be able to feast on this secondary quite a bit, especially with a lack of pass rush. I think it's going to be really, really difficult for them to really stay on top. They do have a really good special teams unit, though. Harrison Butker is one of the better place kickers in the NFL. Tommy Townsend's a reliable punter. McCole Hardman's going to be returning punts. He's going to be returning kickoffs. He's got jets. He's got juice. He's got speed. It's going to be a really strong group for them as well. And then you throw in the fact that you can also have Sky Moore be a returner there. Marquez Valdez-Scantling has the speed, the jets, if they really wanted to just go straight speed on kickoff and punt. Kick, return, punt, return. But I think when you look at the coverage units, outside of their linebackers, I think that they're also going to struggle with a lack of experience, lack of veteran leadership. I don't think that their coverage units are going to be very good this season.
You don't think the coverage? Well, I think the initial coverage is going to be fine, but I do think you made a good point about the lack of pass rush. They're going to have to defend for 6 seconds at a time, which is undoable. I think the initial first 4 or 5 seconds, which is a typical NFL play, I think they're going to be all right. It's extensions of plays. Once people get out, the quarterback gets out of a pocket. Once receivers, make that secondary break to continue, keep that play alive. I think that's when they're going to start to crumble.
Do you think that the Chiefs are a little overhyped just because of Patrick Mahomes?
No, I don't think they're as good as they've been in the past, but I think they're as hyped as they deserve the hype. To me, they are the power of the AFC until as soon as they don't make 2 conference finals in a row, then maybe I'll start considering it. But at this point, what Patrick Mahomes can do, I just can't doubt it. I think that the hype is right where it's supposed to be. I think they're a really good team, not roster wise, what they've been in the last couple of seasons or during their Super Bowl runs. But until they are stopped, I think you have to respect them.
I think that defensively, they've always been an offensive heavy team, but their only star is Chris Jones right now. That's their only defensive star at all. And I think that teams are going to be able to score. And I think that they're going to have to put up a lot of points and win games and track meets. And when you look at them playing strong defensive teams, I don't think that they're going to be able to get into that race. I think that they are a little overhyped because I think that their defense is suspect. They've got some good players, but they just lack the star power on the defensive side, the veteran leadership on the defensive side. And I think they're going to crumble a little bit. I have them closer to a 10-7, 9-8 season than, their previous, going on 8-game win streaks. It's just not going to happen this year.
I think that is probably fair, but with our division, I think 10-7 is getting into the playoffs.
Even then though, like 10-7 in our division is a lot to ask for.
That's what I'm saying. I think the winner of that division will be in that range. Because I was telling you, I think the winner of our division goes 4-2. I don't think, and I could see it just being a split across the board, meaning have 2 teams go 3-3, because it's so like the parity in the AFC West is unreal. But I will make a point just because it is the Chiefs, and I hope you were right because I'm so sick and tired of them just being so dominant. But we did just talk about how we were kind of laughing at the Chiefs' offensive line not too long ago, and then one dominant season later, they're the best in the league. So there's a lot of young up-and-coming guys on this Chiefs defense who want to make a name for themselves. So if those guys step up, play, the rules that I think this organization believes that they can play, they could be another nightmare team to play this season. I hope that's not the case, because I'm ready for some new blood in the AFC West, representing the AFC in the Super Bowl this season. But we'll have to see. It's early. Training camp hasn't even started. But that's why I am so giddy, and you could hear the excitement in my voice because we're all 0-0. We all have a chance right now.
But the other thing I'm looking at with this team is the AFC West not only has to play themselves, but the NFC West is not an easy matchup either. Granted, the Seahawks should be a cakewalk, but the Cardinals are going to be good. The Colts are going to be good. The Titans are going to be good. And those 2 teams in particular, the Colts and Titans, they're a ground and pound team. Those teams, they're not going to they're going to control the clock. And I don't think that this defense is going to be able to stop that and prevent that. Even outside the division, they play the Packers. They play the Bucks. They play the Bills. Geez, this is a really, really difficult schedule for them. I might even push them down a little bit and down to 9-8. It's gonna be rough for them because they have some hard matchups this season. To draw the out of division conference games that we're not going to play the Packers, right? That's going to be a real tough matchup for them. And the Bucks, that's just insane that they're playing those 2 teams.
So that's what you get when you're that good for that long. People want to see you play against the top teams. They want those potential Super Bowl previews in the regular season, and that they can sell those tickets easier. So that's what you get for being so good.
Because the AFC West is so strong, I don't think that there's going to be two teams from our division that make playoffs.
It's going to be tough, right?
It might just be the division winner, and then you're going to have a team that in a different AFC conference who has an easier schedule, who has a higher record, end up getting in even though they're the inferior teams. So there's a chance that they don't even make playoffs, which is crazy because nobody's on that radar. But I think that this defense is suspect. And that's what it comes down to me. So it is what it is. You got any closing remarks?
Just that whatever team comes out of the AFC West this year, whoever squeaks their way to a division crown has to be the front runner for the Super Bowl, just because of the battle they're playing 17 game playoff season. There's 17 playoff games each team. So I'm excited. I'm ready to get into it. When does training camp start?
Training camp starts on the 27th. I will be there opening day. Which actually brings me to something I wanted to talk about. It's my magazine.
Yeah.
So I did just ship everybody's magazine. The mailman literally just came and picked them up before we hopped up on the podcast. I did send you your copy. Yes. I have sent all but 18 copies. So if you're not getting a copy within the next week, there's a high probability you're getting a Sean Merriman signed edition. So stay tuned for that. Your goal is to not receive a magazine next week. That is your goal. So I did ship them to Sean Merriman on Wednesday. I did see that it delivered. We'll see when he ends up sending them back. But you're basically waiting for Sean Merriman to send those magazines back to me so I can get them out to you guys. I will also be at the Die Hard Bolt Club event July 10th. It's in Mission Bay, a chance to kind of meet some of the Die Hard Bolt Club fam. So that should be fun. That's upcoming. And then I do know that the Cowboys Chargers preseason matchup, the practice for that is open to season ticket holders only. I don't know if I'll have a chance to make it to that because my wedding and honeymoon, I'm pretty sure, overlaps on both of those. So that's upcoming. But I will definitely be there on the 27th. You'll get a chance to get a magazine there. And then I'm also doing a couple giveaways through Charger Chat, through Chargers Unleashed. I think I reached out to the Guilty as Charged guys to see if they all wanted to give away some copies, so you have a chance to get your hands on one of those. I'm running out, though. Printed 125 copies. I mailed 75 of them today at about $3 a piece, so came out of pocket quite a bit in postage. But that's all coming out. And we also have a giveaway, in case you guys don't know, for 2 tickets to the Rams Chargers preseason game. If you want to get a chance, I think you just have to retweet and follow us. The tweet is the magazine tweet. And we'll be giving those out on the 27th as well. So 2 tickets with parking. And I think that's everything I have to kind of get out to everybody.
Perfect. Yeah, I was going to remind you of the magazine because I was just super excited to see them printed. It's one thing looking at it, in design, but seeing it actually physically printed out is.
It looks so good. There's a little tiny things that I'm starting to find they're kind of annoying. Like there's a white strip across the very top of the magazine cover, but for the most part, it came out. It's the best one I've written yet. Just visually, just the way that InDesign does all that stuff. I had a lot of fun writing it. I've already started writing the new one. Kind of a sneak peek. I did do a LaDainian Tomlinson piece that kind of breaks down. You had a chance to read that. His career going from his childhood into the Hall of Fame and, post Charger life, where he does a lot of things through the LaDainian Tomlinson Foundation and those things. So that'll be coming out. Hopefully my goal is to finish the next magazine by February. I would say would probably be the timeline I'm shooting for. I'd like to do 2 a year. It's a lot to try to fit in, but we'll see how that goes.
Ambitions, got to have goals.
All right, thank you guys so much for listening, and we will be breaking down the Raiders next week. Over and out.
I think a new team has arrived in the AFC West, and their name is the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah.